Hey everyone, welcome back for another Nintendo Switch Lite accessory review. And today we're going to be taking a look at the case grip combo from SATISFYE for the Nintendo Switch Lite. Now first, just before we get anywhere in this review, I just want to let you all know that this is in no way a sponsored video. I'm letting you all know this because I know SATISFYE does a lot of sponsored stuff with different people, and I want to make sure that you know that this was a 100% privately purchased product. And while we're actually on that subject, I really have to give a huge shout out and thank you to Scott, one of my fans that actually sent me this product himself. He saw my video from a couple of months back where I did the best Nintendo Switch Lite cases, and I mentioned in that video that unfortunately the import and shipping fees to Canada on the Switch grip combo were actually quite high, and it was hard for me to justify to purchase it for the channel. Well, he offered to buy one and send it to me, and honestly, you have no idea how happy and thankful I am that he did that. Now, to get started on the review, I always like to start with a close-up look at both the case and grip, so let's get started with that. Now, I always like to start by taking a quick look at the box, and basically it comes in a nice, brightly colored big box. The front is very simple, yet punches with the SATISFYE logo and a brief description of what you have in the box, so the case, the grip, and a couple of thumb grips. If we look at the longer sides, they both are tattooed with the SATISFYE logo on both sides, once in a brighter, once in a darker color. And the back of the box has a general description of basically the main features of both the grip and the case. But we're going to look at those more closely when we look at the products themselves. Now, I'm not going to show you the outside edges, but there's a couple of beauty shots. The only reason is the box is so long that it's really hard to fit it under the camera. But I think you get a general idea that this is a nicely designed box. Now let's move on and take a look at what we're actually here to see. Now first, let's start with the case. First thing you need to know is I obviously, as you can see right now, got the orange version, but there are different colored options if you want them. The material used on the case feels really nice and high quality. It's almost a denim-like feel. And when you pick the case up, you can right away feel that it has some decent weight to it, and you can right away feel that there's a nice balance between rigidity and flexibility, which just gives you a feel that this is a solid case that's going to be protecting your Switch. And that's actually one of the main things that SATISFYE say they focus on, is protecting your Switch. And just off the feel of the case in general, I can tell you that I believe it 100%. Now, if you want to check out some of the sponsored videos, people have actually done drop tests with these cases, like throwing them off buildings and bridges and stuff, and apparently these Switches don't get damaged. Now, this is not a sponsored video, and I will not be throwing my Switch off any buildings, but I do believe after holding this case that those videos are real and that they're actual testimonials. This is, however, quite a large case. If we look at it real quick, you actually get the impression that it was more designed for the original Nintendo Switch, but in a few seconds you'll see that that is not the case whatsoever. If we take a look at the back of the case, here you can see that it is really heavily indented. You'll probably see this better at this angle. The reason why is because basically, as I said earlier, the case was designed large because it's actually made to accommodate not only the Nintendo Switch Lite, but the Nintendo Switch Lite with the grip attached to it. So when you're using the SATISFYE case, you actually never need to remove your Switch Lite from the grip. You can leave it on and directly into the case. Now they do actually make two models. This is the slim model, which is why you have such a large indentation. They make a slightly larger standard model for people that want a little more space. But if we go back to the back, there's nothing special about it other than, once again, you get that nice solid rigidity. It feels like a really solid backing, and you have that uniform material, just gives it a clean look. Now, the zippers seem very high quality. They roll really nicely, not snagging on any teeth whatsoever. It seems like a zipper that you'll have no problem using for years and that won't really, break or, stop working properly after just a few months. Lastly, you have a nice solid handle at the top for carrying the case, and you actually have a couple of tie points where I guess you could tie a longer strap if you wanted it, although the case doesn't actually come with one. Now, if we move on to the inside of the case, I've got to tell you guys, this is the softest felt I've ever felt on a Nintendo Switch case. Like, there is no way you're going to get any markings on your Nintendo Switch, even if it rubs up against the inside of the case or moves around a bit. And when you actually get to the inside and you sort of squeeze the case, that's where you really see that there's about over an inch of padding, or basically space, between the inside lining and the outside lining, which is why the case gives you such a feel of like rigidity and safety for your Switch. The top part is actually not quite so thick. It feels, you know, smaller, but at the same time, basically you sort of have a second level of padding here with where the game's attached to. So once again, I wouldn't be scared of my Switch getting damaged in this case. So far, out of all the cases I've tested, this is actually the one that I would feel safest having my Switch like lay around the house in. Now, if we get to the game storage, you have spots for 8 games. However, as you can see, and maybe this is one of the first downsides, there's actually no storage room for any other accessories. So if you want a charger, if you want any extra games other than the 8 that fit into the case, you're gonna have to figure something else out, because in the case itself, there is no room for any other accessories. And now, just for a quick look, if we put the Switch in with the grip on it, as you can see, it fits really perfectly and closes without any issues. So it was really designed, as I said, to be able to accommodate your Switch Lite with the grip directly on it. Now, let's move on to the grip. Now, the first thing, again, when you hold this grip in your hand that you get is the feeling of quality. Like, I've tried a couple of the Chinese branded grips. They work fine, but when you put this grip in your hand, you can really feel the difference of a quality built product versus a budget built product. And we're actually going to talk about price a little bit later, but overall, this case grip combo isn't really much more expensive than you're going to be paying for those cheaper grips. I mean, they are a little bit cheaper, but overall, the difference in price is actually not that much. And although this grip has a little bit of flex to it, it doesn't feel like it's going to break at all. Like, you can flex it pretty easily, and this grip, you know, is going to stay solid in one piece. Secondly, a lot of these grips, they do now put rubber inserts on the side of the grips to make sure that the Switch doesn't scrape against the sides of the harder plastic. However, what SATISFYE does is that they don't only put them on the sides, they actually put some at the rear here. And I hope you're going to be able to see it on the camera. I'm going to try to get it a little closer. But if you can see the ones on the side here, they don't actually only stop on the side of the grip. They sort of loop around to be a little bit behind your Switch, meaning that your Switch is actually like 0.5 millimeter off the back of the grip as well. So there's no scratching like at the top points here or at the back that happens sometimes with some of the cheaper grips. Now, the white coloring on the grip works well in contrast with the Nintendo Switch. However, what I like as well is that they actually put black hand grips at the back of where your hands are going to be resting. And that's actually a point that we're going to get to later. White is a color that unfortunately gets dirty really quickly. However, the fact that where most of your fingers are going to be resting, they put this black sections at the back, actually make it that the grip won't look dirty as quickly as they would if it was full white. Lastly, at the back, pretty simple. We have some SATISFYE branding, and it identifies it as the Switch Grip Lite. But nothing special to talk about at the back of the product other than, like I said, those black finger grips. Now, the last thing I want to show, obviously, is with the Switch Lite in the grip, is that as on most of these grips, you have an asymmetrical design. If you look, the grip on the right side is actually quite a bit larger than the grip on the left side. And if you're unaware why, it's that basically this corrects a bit the positioning of your hand to more easily rest on the right thumbstick. Because unfortunately, that is one of the problems with the original Switch and with the Switch Lite, is that if you're not using a grip, your hand is going to rest, and basically you're going to have to use sort of a claw type motion to be able to use the left stick. The right side, it actually sits pretty decently for the thumbstick. It's more the D-pad that becomes that sort of claw type design. but with a grip, it evens out the way you're holding your Switch Lite, and it properly positions your thumbs on both joysticks. At the same time, the buttons are perfectly available. It's actually the D-pad, I would say, you're still slightly getting that claw grip when you're using it. But overall, it's an asymmetrical design, it works well, and it's a heck of a lot more comfortable than just the Switch Lite itself. Well, after those close-up views, I think we have a pretty good idea of everything this case and grip have to offer. And I think that by the description I was making of these products, you're already getting that feeling that I actually really like this case and grip combo. And we're going to actually take a couple of minutes just to discuss basically overall what my final thoughts are on this combo. And although I really like them, we're also going to look at a couple of points that they could have maybe made better, because although they are great products, they, in my opinion, are not perfect, however. And the first thing I would actually like to touch upon, and I did mention it a little bit earlier, is the price. Now, I was mentioning the price, but actually the price, in my opinion, is a positive point. Why? Because yes, if you're buying the case and grip separately, they run you about between $20 and $25 on average when they're not on sale. However, if you're buying them as a combo, right now, the case and grip combo is only $35. And when you split that down the middle, if you imagine you're paying $17 for the case and $17 for the grip, I mean, there are cheaper Nintendo Switch Lite cases out there, and there are cheaper grips out there, but let's just imagine you're paying about $15 for your case and $10 to $15 for your grip. That's maybe only a savings of about $10 on average. Honestly, for $35, for the quality of products you're getting, to me, it's a no-brainer. It's not even worth thinking about buying those off-branded versions. Just get the original SATISFYE ones. You'll have much better quality. And basically, this combo primarily targets someone who plays their Nintendo Switch Lite in handheld mode. That is one of the most important parts of this whole review, is that for this case grip combo to be perfect for you, you have to primarily play your Nintendo Switch Lite in handheld mode. And that's what we're actually going to get to when I mentioned that this case grip combo isn't perfect, however. But basically, if you've ever played your Nintendo Switch Lite in handheld mode, and after a few hours started having those cramping hands because basically you were using that claw grip either on the D-pad or on the right joystick, well, this grip comes and solves that issue. Is it going to be perfect for every sized hand? Probably not. If you have extremely large hands, you're going to be slightly less comfortable than someone with small to medium-sized hands, which is where this grip basically is perfectly sized for. Once you use this grip, you're going to have an extremely hard time going back to playing your Nintendo Switch Lite without the grip. It's just that much of an improvement. In my opinion, it actually improved my performance in some games, just because I basically can switch between the right thumbstick to the right buttons much quicker and much more comfortably than on average. However, don't expect this to make you in Fortnite Pro all of a sudden. It's not that kind of product. It's just going to probably slightly enhance your reaction time. Now, we're unfortunately going to get to a couple of the weaker points of this combo. And there aren't many, but the primary one that I sort of want to talk about is the choice of color. Aesthetically, it is amazing. It looks great to have this white grip combined with like your yellow, your blue, your coral, any color of the Nintendo Switch Lite you have. This is going to be a really nice contrast basically with it. However, the choice of white, in my opinion, does mean that if you are not careful and you play sometimes without necessarily washing your hands on a regular basis, your grip is going to look grimy and a sort of grayish brown pretty quickly. I'm not having too much of that issue because as an adult, you know, I try to keep my stuff clean, but especially if your Nintendo Switch Lites are in the hands of kids, I would say you're going to have, you know, you're probably going to have eventually that problem where, you know, he's eating Doritos while playing his Nintendo Switch Lite and you wind up with an orange grip. But like I said, at least they did think of putting those black backings basically where most of your fingers are going to rest, since the other ones are most likely on the Nintendo Switch button. But this is actually nothing new, because I actually griped about the fact that even on the Switch Lite itself, they chose to go with white buttons, because it's the same issue once again. Now, the second issue I wanted to discuss, and it'll affect people who actually basically are used to rotating between handheld mode and tabletop mode. The reason why is that a lot of the other grips, you know, the Chinese made knockoff grips, allow you to set the Switch on a table with pretty much a 45-degree angle, meaning that basically you can set the grip on a table, grab a controller, and play in tabletop mode pretty easily. The problem with the SATISFYE grip is that although you can set it on the table and it stands very safely, unfortunately it stands at almost a 90-degree angle. And unfortunately, unless you're playing with it higher than basically your face, which is pretty rare. Like when you sit down at a table, generally you're always looking down at a 45-degree angle. But basically, to properly play this in tabletop mode, you have to be situated with the Switch basically above your face. At that point, you're going to be seeing, you know, in a straight line and being able to play comfortably. But unfortunately, I would have preferred them to come up with some type of design where you could have maybe a couple of kick-out stands or something like that, but that would allow you to set the Switch at a 45-degree angle, just to be able to basically flip between that handheld and tabletop mode. And it exists because a couple of the cheaper grips actually offer that kind of option. Would I actually choose to go with one of those grips and exchange it for the drop in quality? Not really. But nonetheless, if ever they make a version 2 of their grips, I would strongly like them to look at an option that would basically allow you to tilt the Switch at a sort of a 45-degree angle. And the last point sort of ties into this, the fact that you can actually fit no accessories or extra accessories in the case. And I think that if you get the bigger model of the case, there is some extra storage. And I get that the case is already so big, they probably didn't want to make it any bigger. But it's just something to keep in mind that you can't fit any other accessories. If you want to bring a charger or something else along, you're probably going to have a backpack or something else to be able to put those accessories in. So now, although that might have seemed like a few points, overall though, none of those points are drastic enough to where I still would not recommend purchasing the grip and case combo, especially, like I said, if you play in handheld mode. Even if you only play 25% of your time in handheld mode, if you have the money, buy this grip. It's going to really make your playtime that much more comfortable and that much more pleasurable. But after all that, I don't think there's much more we need to say about this case and grip combo. So if you're looking for a grip, you've got it right here, the SATISFYE grip for the Switch Lite. It was already the best grip for the original Nintendo Switch. And once again, in my opinion, it's the best grip available as well for the Switch Lite. And that case, if you're looking for protection for your Switch, there's no tougher case that I've come across so far. It's just a no-brainer for the protection side. So, as usual, I hope all of you liked this video. If you did, please don't forget to drop a like. It helps a lot for the YouTube algorithm. Also, if you're not subscribed yet, please do subscribe and activate the notification bell to make sure that you're aware of every time I post a video. And as usual, I hope I'll see you guys in the next one.